This is question 228. The right triangle PQR is to be constructed in the XY plane, so the right angle is at P. Okay, so we have a right triangle, looks something like this, and the right angle is at P. So then we have information about Q and R. We're told that PR is basically horizontal to the x-axis, so it's got to look like this. And then we're given some coordinates, and we're told that everything fits inside for the x-axis inside -4 and 5, and then for the y-axis everything fits between 6 and 16. And so basically the distance y-wise is 10, that's the distance, and the distance here is effectively 9. So the question is, how many triangles can fit in this space, right? So number of triangles. Well, first we have to pick point P, then point Q, and then point R. So point P, well, we know there are between 6 and 16, inclusive is actually 10 plus 11 points. So we have 11 for this way. Then you have to multiply that by this. We have 9 is the distance, but the actual points is 10. So we have to multiply that together. That times with Q, well, Q you have to choose from the remaining 10 points. So originally we had 11, you choose 1, there's 10 left over. And then with R, there is originally 10 points, you choose 1, there's 9 remaining. So really this is the calculation you want. 110 times 10 times 9. So that's 1100 times 9, that gives you 9900. So that's 9900. So in terms of answer choices, that's answer choice C, 9900. Okay, so there's a lot going on here. Let's take a look at some concepts here. You know, we're basically integrating coordinate geometry with probability. And with this coordinate geometry, we're basically giving this grid area between, the x-axis is between -4 and +5. That gives us a distance of 9, or a total of 10 points. And then this kind of like square grid area where you could create any triangle you want. You could create one that's here and it looks like this, or that's here that looks like whatever. So basically you can draw any kind of triangle you want in this square grid zone given these coordinates. And then your question is to figure out how many different kinds of triangles. Well, in order to find how many different kinds of triangles, you basically need to find all the permutations of all the coordinates. And of course, you want to pick first the coordinate for P and then vary that for both the x and y axes. That's why you have two components here. It's basically, you're almost looking at x, in terms of the P coordinate in terms of x and y. Then you want to permutate after choosing the coordinate for P. Well, what possible values do you have for Q? Well, you have 10 possible values along the y-axis, and so this is really along the y-axis. PR, we were told, is horizontal with the x-axis, so that you have to permutate along the x-axis. And along the x-axis, you have 9 additional points, or leftover points, after you choose the P. And with Q, you have 10 points. So you have to multiply those all together. Again, with P, you had to permutate across both x and y because that was the first point that you chose. And you always have to be inclusive, right? 6 to 16, you might make the mistake, 16 minus 6, that's 10. Well, actually, if you count it all out, when you add it inclusively, you always have to add 1. So that's why we have 11 here and 10, and then this 10 goes with this 10, this 9 goes with this 9. You multiply it out, and you get 9900. So as a recap, this is a coordinate geometry question. You have a right triangle. You have to draw it correctly with the right angle at P, and then PR you have to know is horizontal. So that leaves with Q to be up on top or wherever else you put it. And then you're giving these coordinates, so you have to fit these triangles within this box coordinate, and then to figure out how many different kinds of triangles, you have to basically figure out how many different ways can you arrange these 3 points of the triangle within this grid. So first you got to permutate the P along 2 axes, then you permutate the Q along the single y-axis, and then the R point along the single x-axis. Multiply them all out together, and then you get 9900, and that's answer choice C.